with the new currency, that people are using it. And, I would be, I'm very much a traditionalist. I like staying with the dollar. You know that from when I was there. It's make the dollar the choice. I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar.
Bitcoin. And I have in the past, I don't know if you recall, but I said, you got to look at this closely, Mr. President. And the current SEC commissioner, Gary Gensler, finally allowed for these spot ETFs. And now we see Bitcoin at almost 72,000. But it's almost as if it's in spite of some of the efforts over regulation of maybe the Biden administration. Do you have any thoughts now on crypto?
Well, it's taken its own life. I do little things sometimes for fun and, make money with it, but I have fun with it too.
You mean NFTs, you bought
Bitcoin? No. But I sometimes will let people pay through Bitcoin, or will let people get involved in a new. If you think of it, it's an additional form of currency. And I used to say, I want one currency. I want the dollar. I don't want people leaving the dollar. And I feel that way. But I will tell you, it has taken on a life. I did a thing that people smile at, but it was wild. We did 1,000 sneakers, so limited edition sneaker run. The last one, and you could go through, our crazy new currencies, because that's what I call them. They're crazy, whether it's Bitcoin or others. And so many people were buying these things. And ultimately, the last pair of sneakers sold for approximately, I hear, $450,000. It was a limited edition, a run. They were gold. They were, nice, cute. And we thought it was just a very small thing. It was a branding thing, and had a good time with it. The last pair sold for $450,000. People were going crazy for these sneakers. You probably were too. Everybody was. I have every friend I have has called me for a pair of sneakers. So it just took off. And I noticed that so many of them were paid for with this with the new currency. And it is that. It's a new cryptocurrency. And I couldn't believe the amount. And I'm saying, this thing has really, and other things I do, people are using it. And, I would be, I'm very much a traditionalist. I like staying with the dollar. You know that from when I was there. It's make the dollar the choice. I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar. And frankly, and I know Jay feels strongly about this, and Jay did a fantastic job, by the way, in a group where there's always scandal and problems. Jay went through 4 years. There wasn't one scandal. I don't know, Jay, maybe you can tell me, but there wasn't one scandal. That is the most scandalous position, because it involves massive amounts of money. With Jay Clayton, we had no scandal, zero, nothing whatsoever. So I thought it was great. But I have seen there has been a lot of use of that, and I'm not sure that I'd want to take it away at this point.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And we have Trump says Bitcoin is the new currency, but doesn't want the dollar to lose its power. And guys, we know it's already been done. It's just the central banks holding up the dollar. But he states losing the world reserve currency is like losing the drums of beating. And guys, we know it's already done. Remember, the central banks fund both of the drums of beating. And we have Trump says that China is America's boss. America is just a subsidiary. And I take you back to my Anthony Sutton videos. This was planned out about 50, 60 years ago. America, along with the United States world reserve currency, falls, and China, the dragon, along with that digital yuan, rises. And part of China is TikTok. And now that TikTok ban is coming up again. And just like with Bitcoin, Trump plays the Hegelian dialectic. We know at first he said he didn't like Bitcoin. He tried to ban TikTok, and now he likes Bitcoin and doesn't want TikTok to go anywhere because Meta, Facebook, is an enemy to the people. And of course, the media uses that quote, and Meta stock drops just off of that quote. Guys, remember, it's all ran by an algorithm. None of it is real. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Now we have Michael Saylor says Bitcoin is better than gold. And guys, we know they're going to keep using that narrative because remember, tokenization, blockchain, crypto, like BlackRock's Larry Fink stated, it is the gateway for everything to be tokenized and put on blockchain. Nothing is going to be real, and then everything is going to be tracked. Remember, blockchain gives the NWO the all-seeing eye, and crypto means hidden message, hidden meaning. It's for the machines. And with this programmable money, they'll be able to tell you what, where, and when, how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it or poof, it's gone. And whether the price is at $17,000 or $73,000, remember the NWO makes money whether it goes up or down. And Michael Saylor is definitely not worried. Remember, it should be called Morgan Stanley because Michael Saylor already has the NWO plan. And that's the fourth industrial revolution. Whether robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
This saved the whole industry. But one thing, let me just tell you, beyond the economics, it gives you power in dealing with other countries. Because China would come in and say, no more tax, no more tax. They were absolutely fine for me to deal with because they were so petrified of me putting on additional tariffs. And we don't use that. China is right now our boss. They are the boss of the United States, almost like we're a subsidiary of China.
Is there no concern?
The Biden administration has been so weak.
Mr. President, is there no concern that China could impose retaliatory tariffs or retaliatory actions that would make doing business in China difficult for American companies, which are dependent on China for growth?
That's okay. Yeah, sure. They might do that, but you know what?
So tell Starbucks, tell McDonald's that it's going to be all of a sudden maybe more difficult to do business there.
But they didn't do it with me. You know, we went through years and they didn't do it with me. And they never pulled that trigger. That's a big trigger for them to pull. But even if they do, let American companies come back to America. Look, if you want to sell a car in China, you can't. Okay, you have to put you pay a massive tax or a massive tariff. If we make our cars, we can't sell in China. They charge tremendous tariffs. Well, they're very smart. They're saying, come over to this country. Look at Apple. I've had a great relationship with Apple. And with Tim and everybody over there, it was fine. But I said, you got to build your plants here. They built a big plant in Texas. I was working on that very, very hard with various companies that they build in China because if they build in China, they have no tax. So they'd make it in China. I said, we want you to make it here. They were coming back. They did. They came back with a very big plant here. I said, I'm not doing this unless you, and the whole topic of tariffs to me is so simple. Number one, it's great economically for us, and it brings our companies back. Because if you charge tariffs to China, they're going to build their car plants here, and they're going to employ our people. They're right now building big plants because of Biden. They're building big plants in Mexico. So they build a big China plant in Mexico. Then they sell it across the border with very little tax. It's ridiculous. We want them to build their plants in the United States. We don't want to get cars from China. We want to get cars made by China in the United States using our workers. But it also gives us a big political power. Tariffs are tremendously powerful in terms of stopping wars because they don't want tariffs. And frankly, I made them sing. I made other countries sing with the threat of tariffs. And if you don't have tariffs, we have nothing whatsoever on them. We have lost such an opportunity. When I've seen, if you want to build Harley Davidson as an example, I said, how are you doing in India? They were in the White House. How are you doing in India? No good. Why? They have a 100% tariff, or more than that even. And therefore, we basically can't say, because you have to double and triple the price in India. I said, so what are you going to do? Well, they want us to build a plant in India, and that way we don't have. So they go and they build a big plant in India. We started doing the same thing here. And we have the pot of gold. We have the best pot of gold. But eventually we won't have that because our country is going down, and we're not going to have it. We're losing our economic power.
Mr. President, talking about China, I want to ask you about perhaps one of the biggest business stories and policy stories of the moment, and that is TikTok. You have called TikTok a national security threat. At one point, you said that their, quote, data collection threatens to allow the Chinese Communist Party access to Americans' personal and proprietary information. And yet it appears that you've now reversed your view on banning TikTok. Why is that? So
I had it done. And then Congress said, well, they ultimately usually fail. They are like extremely political, and they're extremely subject to people called lobbyists who happen to be very, very talented, very good, and very rich. I could have banned TikTok. I had it banned just about. I could have gotten it done. But I said, you know what? But I'll leave it up to you. I didn't push them too hard because, let them do their own research and development. And they decided not to do it. But as you know, I was at the point where I could have gotten it done if I wanted to. I sort of said, you guys decide. You make that decision because it's a tough decision to make. Frankly, there are a lot of people on TikTok that love it. There are a lot of young kids on TikTok who will go crazy without it. There are a lot of users. There's, a lot of good, and there's a lot of bad with TikTok. But the thing I don't like is that without TikTok, you can make Facebook bigger. And I consider Facebook to be an enemy of the people, along with a lot of the media. What Facebook did with lockboxes, with the $500 million Zuckerbucks lockboxes that he put in, I mean, I consider illegal, but they put people in jail when they spend. They put people in jail when they spend more than $5,600 in a campaign. They go to jail if they're $200. Look at Dinesh D'Souza. Right. They put him in jail over a couple of $100. And yet here's a guy spends $500 million and he doesn't go to jail.
Mr. President, though, is TikTok, but do you believe that TikTok is a national security threat or not? Because if it is, and I believe that the emergency powers order that you had put in place at the time suggested that it was that not true?
I do believe that. I do believe it. And we have to very much go into privacy and make sure that we are protecting the American people's privacy and data rights. And I agree. But, we also have that problem you have that problem with Facebook and lots of other companies, too. I mean, they get the information. They get plenty of information, and they deal with China, and they'll do whatever China wants. If you look at some of our American companies, when you talk about highly sophisticated companies that you think are American, they're not so American. They deal in China, and if China wants anything from them, they will give it. So that's a national security risk also. But when I look at it, I'm not looking to make Facebook double the size. And if you ban TikTok, Facebook, and others, but mostly Facebook will be a big beneficiary. And I think Facebook has been very dishonest. I think Facebook has been very bad for our country, especially when it comes to elections.
Mr. President, you met recently with Jeff Yass, who's a hedge fund manager, has a stake in TikTok. He's a huge GOP donor. Steve Bannon has suggested that you've been paid off to switch your view. How did your view change? How did that come about? And did you have a conversation with Jeff Yass about it?
No, I didn't. I met with him very briefly. I made a speech, and I said hello to him and his wife, who's lovely. And actually, her primary thing was on education. She wants choice. as I do. And she mentioned to me more than anything, we talked about education. It was a meeting that lasted for a few minutes. No, the only one I met was, I met them both. And, I don't think I ever met him before, but he never mentioned TikTok. She did mention school choice, and that's what her whole, in fact, she said, my whole life is based around school choice. It was a very important thing to her, and I agree with it.
Bitcoin is certainly at least digital gold. It's going to eat gold. It's got all of the great attributes of gold, and it's got none of the defects of gold. If you could teleport gold from New York to Tokyo in a few minutes, people would like it. It's going to divert capital from risk assets and risk ETFs like SPY, and you can see that these ETFs are doing that. It's going to be incorporated into a lot of funds like the BlackRock Global Opportunities Fund or the Strategic Income Opportunities Fund. And so it's an asset class. As it goes into other funds, it's going to become structural. The halving is going to cut the organic supply of natural sellers in half around April 20th. That means there's only about $32 million a day of natural sellers. And the price of Bitcoin is going to have to adjust up in order to meet that investor demand. So I think that's what's going to happen next to the asset class. Container ship or the super tanker of Bitcoin, they can take $1 billion a day into their capital structure, and they can haul that very efficiently, 25 basis points. MicroStrategies like air freight, we got higher performance. So what's going on here? MicroStrategies got leverage. If we borrowed $800 million at 62 basis points, is there any company in the world that you wouldn't like to invest in that could borrow $1 billion at less than 1% interest to invest in your best idea? So we get that very intelligent leverage. It's non-recourse, it's unsecured, and then we buy Bitcoin with it. That leverage gives us volatility. It gives us performance. The performance gives us volatility. The volatility attracts capital, and we can then leverage more. It's kind of intelligent because it's convertible debt. It's given our shareholders more Bitcoin per share this week than they had a few weeks ago. So it's very accretive for them. And it's pretty compelling for every investor. If you're Bitcoin curious right now and you want to buy Bitcoin at the all-time high, how do you get the upside in Bitcoin with downside protection? MicroStrategy sold $800 million in debt, and we have $13 billion of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So we're giving you an over-collateralized loan and the upside. But if you're a Bitcoin maximalist and you love Bitcoin and you want to hold it forever, the ETFs charge you 25 basis points. MicroStrategy is accreting. We're giving you a yield against your shares in a tax-efficient fashion. So the maximalists like the equity. The hedgers, they kind of like the upside with downside protection. The traders love the vol. We've got 100 vol asset here, and they just like the vol. So we're unique because you can't really trade options on the ETFs, and an ETF isn't going to issue a convertible bond with upside to Bitcoin, but downside protection.
And the mathematics, and I know people like you went to MIT, and it just seems maybe it's more understandable for you or Andreessen or Peter Thiel or whatever. At 17, down from 68, and your leverage and everything else, did you ever wake up in the middle of the night and have any doubt whatsoever? That's my one question, because I was thinking about you at 17,000, and now I look at it now, and I just can't believe what the market cap of your company is based on it now. I guess, and the other thing is, when it halves, should we, if we look at it on stock to flow, do we have to just double what the potential price is based on, if you use that metric? Is that a valid metric to use? And after the halving, shouldn't it be 140,000 immediately if it's worth 72 now?
Two good questions, and thanks for asking me. First, with regard to Bitcoin, no, there's no doubt in my mind Bitcoin was a better investment at 17,000 than it was at 65,000. I take the Warren Buffett view on this. Bitcoin's a superior investment to gold, equity, bonds, and real estate because it's digital. You can trade it 1 million times faster than conventional assets using a computer. It's available. Most other assets only trade less than 20% of the time. Bitcoin's trading 168 hours a week. We bought $800 million of Bitcoin, and a lot of it we bought over the weekend when all the conventional markets are closed. It's global. It's the most widely recognized and trusted investment asset in the world right now. It's ethical because it's the king of all commodities. There's no issuer. There's no company. There's no country controlling it. And fundamentally, it's useful. Thousands of market makers can trade it all the time. Millions of companies can trade it. Billions of people. If you want to buy a house on Saturday in Africa, this is the way to do it. If you want to buy a car on Sunday morning, this is the way to do it. So it's a pretty great asset. It's the greatest of the assets, in my opinion. There's no second best asset. So I didn't have any question about it. We're just waiting for the rest of the world to realize how good it is.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank Cbdc has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Sonali Basak. Sonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that Cbdc, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told his members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will. During that auction that we saw a little bit before, the attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets. Now,
it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy. And you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books, is time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.